The house was quiet in the kind of way that feels thick. Like the air itself had absorbed decades of breath and memory. I stood in the front hallway, fingers still wrapped around the old brass key, the door creaking shut behind me with a finality that made my spine shiver. Dad died 3 weeks ago. A stroke. Quick, unexpected, alone. I hadn't seen him in 9 years. Not since the last fight, if you could call silence a fight. I didn't cry when I got the call from the hospital. I didn't cry at the funeral. I didn't know what to feel. I still don't. But this house knew everything. And I could feel it watching me, like it remembered the things I didn't want to. It smelled the same. Like dust, pine cleaner, and whatever old leather chairs exhale after years of sun exposure. The floorboards still groaned in the same places. Even the kitchen faucet still dripped like a ticking clock. I wandered for a while, opening drawers, thumbing through old books, stopping at photographs that felt like stolen snapshots of a life I only half remembered. Then I found the study. Dad's old desk was still there, meticulously neat. The same blotter, the same fountain pen, capped and perfectly parallel to the edge of the desk. I sat down without meaning to, and when I opened the top drawer, I found it. An old black answering machine. The kind with actual buttons and a tiny cassette tape. It was still plugged in. The red light blinked. I don't know what made me press play. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe I was hoping to hear his voice. Maybe I just didn't want to feel alone. But what came out wasn't what I expected. "Hi, Daddy. It's me again. I saw a bird today with red on its head. It made me think of that time at the park, do you remember?" The voice was tiny. High-pitched. Cracking in that half-lisp kids have before they lose their front teeth. It was my voice. I froze. It was like being punched in the stomach by a ghost. "I wish you were here. Mommy says I talk too much, but I don't care. I just want to tell you things." Click. I didn't remember that message. Not even a fragment. But I knew that voice. That cadence. The way I used to end sentences like they were questions. There were more. The display read 57. I pressed play again. "Hi, Daddy. Guess what? I lost my tooth today. It didn't even hurt that much. Do you remember when you said the tooth fairy might give me extra if I was brave?" I pressed stop. My hands were shaking. Why had he kept them? Why hadn't he told me? I looked around the study again, but it suddenly felt less like a room and more like a shrine. A reliquary to a man I didn't understand, and to a child I barely remembered being. I took the answering machine and the tapes into the living room. Sat cross-legged on the floor. And hit play. One by one. Each voice a breadcrumb through time. Each message like a forgotten piece of myself surfacing from a deep, dark well. I didn't know it then, but listening to those tapes would change everything I thought I knew about my father. And about myself. The house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt haunted. But not by him. By me. Message 6. The voice trembled more. Not afraid, just cold. You can hear it in kids when they're trying not to cry. "Hi, Daddy. It's really windy today. I wore the red coat, the one you gave me. Mommy said I look like a fire truck. I like that. I miss you. Do you think maybe next weekend we could go to the movies again? I promise I'll share my candy this time." Click. I didn't have a clear picture in my mind, but something about that coat, it unlocked a scent. Wet wool. That chemical clean from the dry cleaner's plastic wrap. I remembered tugging at the sleeves, them always being a little too long, the zipper sticking halfway up. I paused the tape. Stepped into the hallway closet. It was still there. Folded pristine? As if it hadn't aged. Or maybe he had it cleaned. Maybe he kept it like that for years. I pressed my face into it, and inhaled like it might give me something, an answer, a memory, even just a flicker of warmth. The next message came faster. My thumb didn't hesitate. Message 7. "Hi, Daddy. I drew a picture today. It's you and me at the beach. I put your sunglasses on you. Mommy said they look silly, but I like them. I think I messed up your smile, though. I always forget which way it goes. Click. I closed my eyes. My drawings. He kept them. I remembered a shoebox, tucked in the bottom drawer of his bedroom dresser. I'd found it once when I was 12, and he'd said nothing when he saw me holding it. Just sat down beside me and looked at every scribble like it was a masterpiece. I used to think he didn't care. I used to think he didn't know how. But maybe it wasn't that. Maybe he just didn't know how to show it. I sat back down. Pressed play again. Message 8. Hi, Daddy. I had a bad dream last night. You weren't there. I woke up and I called for you, but Mommy said you were working. Are you working lots? Can you call me when you're not busy? Click. I pressed my palms into my eyes until all I could see were those strange, colorful splotches behind my eyelids. It was like every message was peeling back a part of me I didn't know was raw. And yet, I kept listening. Because somewhere in those tiny, desperate calls from my younger self, I was starting to hear him too. Not his voice, but his silence. Message 9. I giggle at the beginning. Daddy, guess what? I made a rocket out of paper towel rolls. It almost flew. I made a flag too, with stars and your name on it. I pretended you were an astronaut. Can we go see real rockets sometime? Click. I remembered that rocket. The glitter glue, the kitchen shears I wasn't supposed to touch, the mess. I remembered Mom being mad. But Dad hadn't been there. He hadn't seen it. Except, I'd told him. I left a message. And he kept it. Message 10. Hi, Daddy. Today we made muffins. Chocolate chip. I put in the eggs and Mommy let me crack one all by myself. I got some shell in it, but she laughed. I saved one for you. I hope it doesn't go bad before you come over. Click. I wiped my eyes. It was like watching my childhood in fragments. Like somebody had edited out all the bad parts and left only the hope. The reaching. The sound of a child still believing his voice might reach the person he needed most. Message 11. Hi, Daddy. I saw a star fall tonight. I made a wish. Mommy asked what I wished for, but I said it was a secret. But it's not really. I wish for you to call me. Click. I hit stop. That one hurt more than the rest. It was a knife. Because I remembered that night. Not the call, but the star. I remembered standing at my bedroom window, hands pressed to the glass, waiting for something magical to happen. I just didn't know I'd left proof of it behind. The kind of proof a father keeps but never speaks of. I let the tape run again. Message 12. Hi, Daddy. Mommy said you're really busy? I know you are. But I miss you. I think maybe you miss me too. I hope so. Click. The answering machine whirred. And I just sat there, letting that silence pour into the room like fog. I'd spent so many years thinking he didn't care. But the evidence was sitting in front of me. 57 small echoes. None erased. None forgotten. Each one a whisper I'd sent into the void. That someone had been listening to all along. The rain had started to fall when I reached the next tape. Not a storm, not even a downpour, just that steady, rhythmic tapping on the windows. The kind that makes everything feel a little slower, a little heavier. Message 13. The voice started with a clatter, like plastic tumbling. Hi, Daddy. I found the blue marble again. It was under the couch. Mommy said she vacuumed, but I think it rolled away and hid. I'm gonna put it in my treasure box this time so I won't lose it. You remember the treasure box, right? Click. I did. A battered old cigar box with a faded sticker of a cartoon shark on the lid. No key. Just a flimsy latch and a world inside. I hadn't thought about it in years. But suddenly I could see it. Every dent, every smudge of crayon, every tiny relic. I went upstairs, to the back of the hall closet. Pushed aside folded towels and plastic bins. There it was, like it had never moved. I opened it on the hallway floor. The marble wasn't there. But the rest was a rubber band ball, a piece of chalk shaped like a dinosaur, a folded note in my scrawled handwriting. To me from me, do not open until you're big. I didn't open it. I couldn't. Not yet. Back downstairs, the answering machine blinked like it had all day. Message 14. Hi, Daddy. It's raining really loud. Mommy let me put on your headphones. The big ones? I pretended I was a pilot flying through a storm. I made a map with crayons and I flew to your house. Are you home now? Click. I stared at the ceiling. I remembered those headphones. Enormous, with foam cushions that smelled like dust and old music. He used to wear them when he worked in the garage. When I wore them, I felt like I was in another world. My world. One where I was brave and he was close. Not far. Not quiet. Message 15. Hi, Daddy. I saw a movie with a big dog in it. He looked like Buster. Remember Buster? He used to sit on your lap even though Mommy said he was too big. I think he misses you too. Click. Buster. I hadn't thought about that dog in 20 years. He died the year after Dad moved out. I barely cried when it happened, but now the memory came like a freight train. Heavy and fast. I pressed pause. Went to the kitchen. Opened a drawer and found one of Dad's old lighters. He hadn't smoked in years, but he always kept one. Said it made him feel like James Dean. I lit a candle on the counter. Not for him. For Buster. And for that kid I used to be. Message 16. Hi, Daddy. I tried to build a fort in the living room, but it kept falling down. I think it needs your arms. You know how to make the roof stay. Mommy says maybe you can help next time. Can you help next time? Click. I exhaled. Sharp. Like I'd been holding it the whole time. I couldn't even remember the sound of my father's laugh, but I remembered the shape of his arms. How strong they felt when I was little. Like they could fix anything. And how empty it felt when they weren't there. Message 17. Hi, Daddy. It's almost my birthday. Mommy says I'm getting big. Do you think I'm getting big? I hope you can come. If you can't, that's okay. But I hope you can. I saved you a piece of cake in my mind. Click. That one nearly broke me. I reached into my bag and pulled out the picture I'd taken from the fridge before I left my apartment. Me, age 7, holding a slice of cake. I'm missing a front tooth and wearing a party hat like a crown. There was an empty chair next to me. I never questioned it until now. Message 18. Hi, Daddy. I know I call a lot. I just like talking to you. Even if you're not there. It feels like maybe you are. I'm gonna go to sleep now. Good night. I love you. Click. That was the first time I'd heard it. I love you. 3 words that never came from his mouth. Not once, not even when Mom made him say goodnight through clenched teeth at the door. But I'd said them. And he'd kept them. 57 messages. Dozens of tiny hands reaching through time, hoping for something. And he didn't delete a single one. He'd left them in that machine, humming silently in a drawer. Maybe because he couldn't face them. Maybe because they were all he had left of me. Or maybe because he was listening the whole time. Even if he never answered. I sat on the floor for a long time, the rain outside steady as breath. Then, without knowing why, I rewound the tape. And pressed play. I woke up on the living room floor, the answering machine beside me like a companion. My neck ached from the couch cushion I'd pulled down as a makeshift pillow. The tape had stopped in the middle of the night, its tiny wheels stilled. The light blinked again. 22 messages left. The sun cast long shadows through the lace curtains, painting the wood floors in strips of light and memory. I sat up slowly, feeling every bone protest, and hit play again. Message 19. Hi, Daddy. I have a question. If someone loves you, but they don't come back, does it still mean they love you? Mommy says yes, but she cried when she said it. I think I believe her. I hope you do too. Click. I didn't move. It was the kind of question no child should ever have to ask. And yet it came out of my own mouth, full of sincerity, as if truth could be summoned like a spell. The next few messages blurred. Bits of school projects, holiday wishes, jokes I barely understood. They felt like filler, like a child trying to keep the line open, afraid silence might make the connection disappear for good. But then came message 25. Hi, Daddy. I didn't do good on my math test. I got scared and forgot. I wanted to tell you 'cause I didn't want to lie. I tried really hard. I did. I hope you're not mad. Click. My throat tightened. I had forgotten that. Forgotten how much I used to carry every mistake like it would shatter me. And how much I wanted his voice to say, "It's okay. I'm proud of you anyway." But there was never a reply. Message 27. Hi, Daddy. We went to Grandpa's today. He told me stories about when you were little. He said you liked to run away when things got hard. I didn't like that story. But I still miss you. Click. That one struck me different. Grandpa never said much. He was a man of bourbon and long silences. But maybe, in a moment of truth, he told the kid what the adult had learned to ignore, that my father had always been running. Message 30. Hi, Daddy. I don't know if you can hear me anymore. Mommy says maybe it's time to stop calling. But I still want to. I still hope. Even if it's quiet. I love you. Click. I paused the tape. Just stared at the blinking red light. The next few messages came in clusters. Faster, more urgent. As if something had changed. As if the kid had started realizing that silence wasn't temporary, it was the answer. Message 34. Hi, Daddy. I think I'm mad at you. I don't want to be, but I am. I don't understand. Why don't you call? Did I do something wrong? Click. There it was. The fracture. The first time the child let the pain push through the hope. Message 36. Hi, Daddy. I didn't leave a message yesterday. I was trying to be brave. But it felt worse. I think I'd rather hear nothing than say nothing. So here I am again. Talking to you? Even if you're not there. Click. By now, I wasn't just hearing him. I was remembering the feeling. The heat in my cheeks when I pressed the phone to my ear. The breath I held waiting. The ache that grew and grew, unnoticed by everyone but the boy who kept dialing. Message 38. Hi, Daddy. I think I'm getting used to it. The quiet. But I still wish sometimes I could hear you. Even just once. Just to know you heard me. Click. I got up. Poured myself coffee in the same mug he always used. The one with the chip in the rim. I held it like it meant something. Like maybe it was an answer. Or maybe just a habit passed down like a scar. Then I sat again. And pressed play. Message 40. Hi, Daddy. I saw a man who looked like you at the store. I almost said hi. I didn't. But I wanted to. He smiled at me, and I smiled back. I pretended it was you. Just for a second. Click. I didn't cry. But something inside me broke a little more. These weren't just messages. They were memories I buried inside myself, left behind like toys in an attic. And now, one by one, they were waking up. And all I could do was listen. The rain returned sometime in the night. Not the soft drizzle from before, this was a storm. Wind pressing hard against the window panes. The old house creaked like it remembered every storm it had survived. I sat by the fireplace, wrapped in one of Dad's old flannel blankets. The kind that smelled faintly of cedar and thyme. The answering machine was beside me on the rug, glowing red. Message 41. Hi, Daddy. I learned a song today. It's called You Are My Sunshine. We sang it in class and I liked it so much I sang it again at home. I'm gonna sing it for you now. Okay? What followed was out of tune. Half whispered. Full of heart. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine, you make me happy, when skies are gray. A long pause. Then. I hope you liked it. I sang it to my bear too. He said he liked it. Click. I covered my mouth, not to keep from crying, but because something warm and ancient was rising in my chest. That song. He used to hum it. Just a few bars. When he worked on the car. When he made pancakes. When he thought I wasn't listening. Maybe I was always listening. Message 42. Hi, Daddy. Mommy's been sad this week. I tried to help, but I think I made it worse. I hugged her and told her a joke. But she cried more. I think she misses you too. Click. I wanted to go back and find that kid. Tell him it wasn't his job to fix anyone. That hugs don't always make things better, but they matter anyway. That he mattered. Message 43. Hi, Daddy. I don't have anything to say today. I just wanted to hear myself. Click. That one hit me in a strange place. A deep place. Because I knew what he meant. The sound of your own voice is proof you exist. That you're still here. Still trying. Message 44. Hi, Daddy. I went to the lake today. The one with the frogs. I threw a rock and it skipped 4 times. I wished you saw it. It was the best one ever. Click. I remembered that lake. The algae that clung to the rocks. The way the water turned golden at sunset. We used to go there together, before everything fell apart. Message 45. Hi, Daddy. I think I'm getting older. I don't feel like a little kid anymore. I still miss you. But now I don't cry every time. Just sometimes. Click. He was growing. Changing. And I had missed it. Message 46. Hi, Daddy. I had a dream where we were at the zoo. You held my hand and we saw the lions. You bought me ice cream and said I was brave. I woke up happy. Then I got sad. I wanted to stay there. Click. Me too. Message 47. Hi, Daddy. I stopped calling for a while. I wanted to see if you'd call first. You didn't. That's okay. I guess. I still wanted to say hi. Click. My heart splintered. Each message was quieter. Fewer words. Like the boy on the tape was trying to teach himself how to stop. Message 48. Hi, Daddy. I wrote a story today. It was about a boy who lived in a tower and waited for a dragon. But the dragon never came. Just birds. I think it's a sad story. But not too sad. Click. That was the last message of the day. I sat in the stormlit silence of the living room, the wind howling like grief outside. Everything in me felt cracked open. Not because he didn't come, but because I had never stopped waiting. And now, I was beginning to hear the stories behind the silences. The lullabies buried under the noise. And the child who left messages not to be answered, but to remember he had a voice. The tape clicked softly, like a whisper with weight. Only 9 messages left now. 9. I stood in the kitchen, waiting for the kettle to boil, staring at my reflection in the window. I looked older than I remembered. Not just tired, thinned. Like a paper left in the rain too long. The house felt colder today. Maybe because the messages were getting closer to the end. Maybe because I didn't want them to. Message 49. Hi, Daddy. I was a pirate for Halloween. Mommy helped me with my beard. I had a sword too, but it broke. I still got lots of candy though. I saved you a peanut butter cup. Your favorite. Click. I smiled. The last Halloween I remembered with him, I was a ghost. A sheet with holes. I tripped over it going down the steps. He caught me before I hit the sidewalk. Said, "Don't worry, even ghosts need saving." I'd forgotten that until now. Message 50. Hi, Daddy. I told my teacher about you today. She asked what you did. I said you were a fixer. I think you fixed hearts. Like mine when I was little. I hope that's okay. Click. I pressed my hand to my chest. Not because it hurt, but because something inside shifted. Like a door opening. He wasn't a fixer. But I had believed he was. I had given him that story, that hope. And sometimes, a belief is heavier than the truth. Message 51. Hi, Daddy. I watched an old movie tonight. Black and white. The guy in it looked like you. He smoked a lot and said cool things. Mommy said he was trouble. I think you were trouble too. But the good kind. Click. That one made me laugh. Trouble. Yeah. He was. Late nights. Unpaid tickets. Stories that ended with, "Don't tell your mom." He wasn't a perfect man. But he was mine. Even in his absence. Message 52. Hi, Daddy. I started writing in a journal. Just thoughts. Like these messages but quieter. Sometimes I write them out before I call you. That way I know what I really mean. Click. The boy was growing up. Learning how to speak even when no one was listening. Or maybe he was learning to listen to himself. Message 53. Hi, Daddy. I got scared tonight. Just out of nowhere. Like something was coming but I couldn't see it. I curled up with my bear. The old one. He's falling apart. Like me, I guess. Click. I found the bear in the attic that afternoon. One eye gone, stitching loose. I cradled it like something sacred. Because it was. It held stories. Smelled like a part of the house that never moved on. Message 54. Hi, Daddy. I think maybe this is just who we are now. Me talking, you not. But I'll keep calling. Even if it's just to hear the click. Even if it's just to prove I still care. Click. I wiped the fog off the window. Outside, a bird perched on the fence. Watching. Or maybe just resting. But I liked the idea that it was listening. The tape spun. And spun. Until it stopped. 3 messages left. 3 messages. That's all that remained. I couldn't bring myself to press play. Not yet. Instead, I wandered the house. Traced my hand along the wooden banister of the staircase, remembering the nights I slid down it in socks and got scolded for scratching the finish. The grooves were still there. I ran my fingers over each one, like braille written by my younger self. Upstairs, I opened the door to what used to be my room. The wallpaper had faded. The shelves were mostly empty. But the indentations in the carpet still hinted where the bed had been. Where the toy chest once stood. I sat down in the middle of the floor and listened to the house breathe. I could hear the wind outside. The groan of the old pipes. And somewhere, under all of it, I imagined I could still hear the hum of that answering machine. I went back downstairs. Saturday. Press play. Message 55. Hi, Daddy. Today was weird. I got in trouble at school for yelling. I didn't mean to, it just came out. I think I'm mad again. But I don't know what to do with it. I miss you. That's all. Click. There was something in his voice, my voice, that I hadn't heard before. It was older. Rougher. Like the innocence had been scraped thin. And underneath it, the sound of a boy learning what loneliness really was. Message 56. Hi, Daddy. I found your old tape today. The one with all the songs from the road trip. I played it in the car with Mom. She cried. I didn't. I just listened. Remember Landslide? I think I get it now. Click. I stood up. Went to the study. Opened the drawer. Found the case, cracked plastic, handwritten track list. Road Trip 92. Fleetwood Mac. Tom Petty. Bruce Springsteen. A mixtape from another life. I brought it back with me. Slipped it into the old stereo. Hit play. The guitar opened like a question. Then Stevie's voice. Gentle. Broken in all the right places. Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? I closed my eyes. I wasn't ready for the last one. But I pressed play anyway. Message 57. Hi, Daddy. This is the last one. I'm not gonna call anymore. I think I need to stop waiting. It hurts too much. I'll always love you. But I need to be brave now. Like you used to say. Be brave, kid. So, I'm trying. Bye, Daddy. Click. The tape spun for a moment longer. Then silence. No rewind. No reply. Just the hollow hush of something ending. I sat with that quiet for a long time. It didn't feel empty. It felt full. Like everything I tried to bury had finally climbed its way out and sat beside me. Not to haunt. To be heard. The house didn't feel cold anymore. It felt like memory. And in the center of it all, a voice on an answering machine. A boy trying to reach his father. A father who was listening all along. After the last message, I didn't know what to do with myself. I left the machine on the table like an altar. Like if I stared long enough, maybe a 58th message would whisper its way out of the air. But there was only silence. A different kind now, whole, resigned, reverent. That night I didn't sleep. I walked the halls instead. Touched the frames on the walls. Pulled drawers open like they were doors to some better understanding. And that's when I found the lockbox. It was tucked at the back of Dad's closet, behind winter coats he hadn't worn in years. Small. Metal. Dented. No key. But I knew where to look. I'd seen him hide it once when I was maybe 10, under a loose floorboard in the hall. The key was still there. Inside the lockbox were 4 things. A folded drawing of a beach, 2 figures in crayon, one with giant sunglasses. A marble, blue with a cloudy swirl inside. A cassette labeled, "For when he's ready." And a letter. The paper was yellowed at the edges. His handwriting was stiff. Unsure. Like he didn't know how to talk to me except through this. I unfolded it with shaking hands. Asterisk. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I always meant to say things face to face. But you know me. I was better at leaving than staying. I didn't know how to be the father you needed. I thought if I kept those messages, it was like holding on. But maybe it was just hiding. You were always braver than me. Even as a kid. I kept that marble because you once told me it was a piece of the sky. I believed you. I guess I wanted to believe you could still see something magical, even when I couldn't. I didn't erase those messages because they were the best parts of me. The parts you gave me. And I didn't deserve them. But I kept them anyway. I'm sorry I didn't pick up the phone. I was scared I wouldn't know what to say. But I heard every word. I love you. I always did. Even if I didn't know how to say it. Dad. I sat on the floor of the closet and read it twice. Then again. The words didn't change, but something in me did. I put the drawing on my lap. Held the marble to the light. Then I took the cassette to the old stereo. I didn't press play yet. Not because I was afraid of what I'd hear. But because for the first time, I was ready. I sat there, holding the cassette marked, "For when he's ready." Like it weighed more than plastic should. It felt alive in my hand. Or maybe it was me, finally awake, finally steady. The storm had passed. Morning light broke through the curtains in delicate strands, catching dust in the air like glitter in water. I turned the tape over once, then again. My fingers knew how to do it even if my mind hesitated. I pushed it into the stereo. Press play. And waited. A click. Then a hum. Then his voice. Not the low rumble I remembered from my childhood, distorted by time. This was clearer. Vulnerable. Still strong, but softer at the edges. "Hey, kid. If you're listening to this, then I guess I'm not around anymore." Silence. Not dead air, but breath. A pause long enough to make my throat ache. I don't know what you look like now. Or how tall you got. Or what kind of man you became. But I hope you're good. I hope you're kind. I hope you know how to stay. My hands started to shake. There were so many days I wanted to call. I wrote your number on scraps of paper. Dialed half the digits. Hung up. I thought maybe it was better that way. That hearing me would only make it worse. I leaned forward. Like the tape might pull me in. But every time you called, I sat right there. By the machine. I didn't breathe until the beep. Sometimes I'd whisper to myself like I was answering. You just couldn't hear me. He laughed then. A short, nervous laugh. Not the kind from memory. This one belonged to a man who knew what he'd lost. You were this little tornado of light. You used to wear that red coat like it made you invincible. I'd watch you from the car when I dropped you off. You never looked back. Brave as hell. You always were. My heart felt like it was collapsing in on itself. I saved everything. Not just the messages. The drawings. The ticket stubs. That note you left me on Father's Day when you were 6, you can have my gummy worms. That broke me, kid. I didn't deserve you. But I wanted to. I wanted to be better. The tape clicked slightly, as if he shifted in his seat. I know I left. I know I should have stayed. But I never stopped loving you. And I'm sorry it took me a lifetime to say it. He sighed. And then. So here's my message to you. My only one. A long pause. I'm proud of you. Even if I never got to say it. I'm proud of every word you spoke into that machine. Proud of how you kept calling. Proud of the man I hope you became. You are, and always were, my best thing. Another silence. But it didn't feel empty. It felt like a hand on my shoulder. Be brave, kid. Always. Click. End of tape. I sat back, the silence rushing in again, but now it was something else. Not the ache of absence. Not the echo of a wound. Just quiet. Peaceful. The kind of silence you share with someone when words have done all they can. I didn't cry. I wept. Because love, even when it comes too late, is still love. And sometimes hearing it once is enough. The day I left the house for good, the sun was high, crisp against the last breath of autumn. The kind of day where the shadows are long, but they don't feel heavy. I'd packed what mattered, barely a box. The tapes, the letter, the lockbox. The marble. The drawing. Things that once felt like fragments now felt like anchors. The rest I left behind. The furniture, the creaky faucet, the scent of pine and old leather. The house could keep those. I wandered the rooms one last time, barefoot. The floor cool against my skin. I whispered goodbye to every corner, every shadow that ever knew me. It felt stupid, sentimental. But I did it anyway. The answering machine sat alone on the floor of the study. I stared at it for a long time. Thought about bringing it. Thought about smashing it. Instead, I knelt down, pressed rewind, and then play. The first message again. Hi, Daddy. It's me again. I saw a bird today with red on its head. It made me think of that time at the park. Do you remember? His voice. My voice. Ours. I let it play through. Every single one. All 57. I sat there for hours, curled in the same spot I once played with Legos, once cried when I broke a vase, once watched him leave with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. The house didn't feel like a tomb anymore. It felt like a witness. Like it had been holding its breath, waiting for me to come home and listen. When the final click echoed off the walls, I stood. Opened the drawer of Dad's old desk. Placed the answering machine inside, gently. As if it might shatter if I moved too fast. And I left it there. Not because I was leaving something behind. But because I was finally carrying it with me. I stepped outside. Locked the door. Slid the key into the mailbox slot. Then I walked to the car. Turned on the engine. The stereo clicked to life. Fleetwood Mac again. Landslide. The lyrics hit different now. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I built my life around you. I smiled. I wasn't afraid anymore. The house disappeared in the rearview mirror. But the voice stayed with me. Not on a machine. Not in a drawer. In me. Where it always belonged.